All right, today we're going to dive into one of the most incredible stories ever told. And I mean that literally. It's the story of how you were built. It all starts with just a single cell, and somehow unfolds into a world of microscopic architects, a secret language, and a construction plan that is just flawless. So how on earth does it all happen?
I mean, this is the huge mystery, right? How does one single solitary cell, a fertilized egg, contain the complete blueprint to build you? A person with a heart and lungs and a brain, all put together perfectly? It's a question that has just fascinated scientists for centuries.
Well, this whole grand construction project actually has a scientific name. It's called morphogenesis. It literally means the beginning of shape. It's the process that takes a simple ball of cells and transforms it into the unbelievably intricate form of an animal. But how does it really work? What tools do these tiny cellular builders even have to work with?
Well, it turns out that cells rely on two fundamental but incredibly powerful abilities to pull this whole thing off. The first is the ability to move, and the second is the ability to stick together. Seriously, that's it. Movement and adhesion. With just those two tools, they build everything.
So how does a cell move? Well, you can think of it like a really controlled crawl. By rearranging its internal skeleton, a cell pushes out this flat, foot-like extension. That foot then anchors itself to its surroundings, and then, whoop, the rest of the cell just pulls itself forward. But here's the key. This movement isn't random, not at all. The cell is moving with a purpose, crawling towards very specific chemical signals.
Moving is one thing, but to actually build tissues and organs, cells have got to stick together. This is where adhesion molecules come in. The two main types are coherents, which are amazing. They act like a special kind of Velcro that only sticks to other identical coherents. This is brilliant because it ensures that similar cells like liver cells or skin cells all group together. And then you have integrants. Think of these as anchors, securing the cell to the stuff around it, the very ground they crawl on.
Okay, so our cells can move and they can stick, but how do they coordinate this massive body-wide construction project? I mean, how do trillions of individual builders all work together in perfect concert? Well, they do it by communicating. They use a secret cellular language.
And this language takes a few different forms. You've got paracrine signaling. That's kind of like whispering a message to your immediate neighbors. Then there's juxtacrine signaling, which requires direct contact. You can think of it like a handshake between two cells. And finally, there's endocrine signaling. This is the big one. It's like a body-wide announcement using hormones in the bloodstream to send a message far and wide.
So how does a cell hear these messages? It's kind of like a relay race. A signal molecule, called a ligand, arrives and it binds to a very specific receptor on the cell's surface. That binding event kicks off a chain reaction inside the cell, a whole cascade of signals that ultimately delivers a command. A command like divide, move, or maybe even change your identity completely. So now we have the tools, movement and adhesion, and we have the language of signaling. Now let's see how cells use these to create these huge, large-scale patterns and literally design the blueprint of the body.
So how can just one signal create a complex pattern? Okay, imagine someone sprays perfume in a room. The scent is going to be strongest right near the source, and it gets weaker the farther away you get, right? Cells use this exact same principle with signals called morphogens. A cell's fate is literally determined by how much of this signal it senses. A high concentration might tell it to become skin, medium concentration becomes muscle, and a low concentration becomes bone. It's all based on location.
For a truly mind-blowing example of this in action, we don't have to look any further than the development of the vertebrate eye. This is just a masterclass in sophisticated cellular conversation, a process called embryonic induction.
What happens here is just this stunning two-way conversation. So a part of the developing brain bulges out and signals the surface skin right above it, basically telling it, hey, you need to form a lens. But the story doesn't end there. Once that lens starts to form, it signals back to that brain tissue and instructs it, okay, got it. Now it's your turn to become the retina. It's this constant cooperative dialogue that builds the eye correctly. It's just amazing.
So far, we've only really talked about building and creating, but any master architect knows that sometimes construction requires a little demolition. And believe it or not, cell death is a crucial and actually creative part of building a body.
Yeah, it turns out not all cell death is the same.
There's necrosis. That's a messy, traumatic death from an injury where the cell just bursts and causes a bunch of inflammation. But then there's apoptosis. This is something else entirely. It's a clean, quiet, pre-programmed self-destruction. The cell just neatly packages itself up for disposal, leaving no mess behind whatsoever.
You see, apoptosis isn't a mistake. It's a fundamental tool. It really is the sculptor's chisel. This is the exact process that carves the spaces between your fingers and your toes, getting rid of that webbing that was there in the early embryo. Without this targeted demolition, we simply wouldn't have our final, refined shape.
This entire process, it's just this intricate, perfectly timed dance of signals and responses. It's breathtakingly precise. Which, of course, leads to a really critical question. What happens if a signal gets lost, or a message is misread?
Well, when this communication network fails, the consequences can be pretty severe. This is the root of so many developmental disorders and diseases. If a cell doesn't get the right signal at exactly the right time, it can lose its way, and that can lead to malformations or dysfunction. The precision of this language is absolutely vital for a healthy organism. So the next time you look in the mirror, just take a second and remember the incredible story that built you. It's a story that was written by trillions of tiny architects, all speaking a silent language of chemical whispers and following a blueprint of just breathtaking complexity. It really makes you wonder, what other secret conversations are happening inside of us right at this very moment?